Hello world, my name is Dick Wyn and welcome to my channel where I talk about tech, food and lifestyle. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how I started my journey in programming. This is the first time I'm talking about something that's directly related to my career as a software engineer in this channel, and I thought what better week to do that than this week, which is Computer Science Education Week, the week dedicated to raising awareness of computer science education. This annual event is close to my heart because it was the 2013 event where Code.org piloted their Hour Code challenge that made me definitively decide that I want to pursue a degree in computer science. So all throughout this week, I'll be uploading videos about topics like is a computer science degree worth it or how to learn programming. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button and bell icon if you're interested in hearing about those topics. So without further ado, let's start at the beginning where I wrote my very first line of code. It was around 2011. I don't remember the exact first line of code that I wrote, but I vaguely remember it was some CSS and HTML code that I was editing for my blog on Google's Blogger platform. I was following some online tutorial about how to change the default positioning of the images on my blog post. Well, that wasn't the most grandest piece of code that I could have started out with. Nevertheless, that was enough to get me hooked on the idea of customizing my blog beyond the buttons and drop-down selections that were presented on Blogger's customized page. After that, I continued looking up tutorials on how to change other things on my blog, like setting the padding of the main blog post image or adding an image carousel to my blog. At that time, I didn't really know that the thing that I was doing was actually coding. I thought it was some sort of hack, like a cheat codes that you would enter on a video game to get unlimited lives. Fast forward to around March of 2013, I was blogging a lot about technology news on my blog called The Technology of Today. I'll leave the link to that blog down in the video description if you want to check some of my articles on that blog. So I wrote this article about this video that I watched called What Most Schools Don't Teach. That was one of the first offerings from the non-profit Code.org to drum up interest for computer science. And as I mentioned in my article from March 9, 2013, after watching that video, it prompted me to pick up coding. So I went to this website codeacademy.com to sign up for HTML and JavaScript courses where I learned some basic programming concepts like variables and conditional statements. It was a fun experience, but to be honest, the momentum kind of died down after a few days as I quickly lost interest in this idea of coding. But this story doesn't end there. In December that same year, Code.org launched their Hour Code challenge during 2013's Computer Science Education Week. I went through that challenge and I really enjoyed it. Completing that challenge was kind of a turning point for me, as during that time I was in the midst of figuring out what kind of program I wanted to do when I went to college. And yeah, one way to another, doing that challenge influenced my decision to pursue a computer science degree because I felt that I would genuinely enjoy it given that I love all things technology. So with my mindset on getting that computer science degree, I started college and took my very first programming class in April 2014. In that class, I learned the Java programming language, and that class was the first of many computer science courses that I took during my time at Sunway University and Arizona State University. I don't want to go too deep into my computer science degree in this video as I'll be talking more about it in my video coming out on Wednesday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that video. But besides the dozens of computer science classes and programming courses that I took as part of my computer science degree, I also spent a huge chunk of my time between classes to pick up other programming languages. Like one of the first programming languages I picked up after Java was Python, as I was playing around with the Raspberry Pi, and Python was a common language to interface between hardware components like LEDs and switches with the physical GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi board. The interest for doing hardware programming continued on, and in 2015, my first programming teacher actually looped me into this model race car competition held by Freescale Semiconductors. The competition had two parts, which was to build a model race car from scratch and to write an algorithm to use the onboard sensors to autonomously navigate or control the model race car across a given track. Long story short, building the model race car was very fun, but trying to develop the algorithm in C programming language was not fun at all. Like, I only managed to get the model race car to go on a straight line, and that was an achievement by itself. I can't stress on how hard that was for me at the time because I did not know C programming language, and I haven't written anything complex with algorithms. And that whole experience kind of made me distance myself from hardware programming, and ever since then, I've shifted my focus towards programming for the digital environment rather than for physical hardware. And since that shift in focus, I've tried out things like AngularJS for web development, Android app development with Java, and Universal Windows Platform development with C#. While I never really got too deep into any of those technologies, I'm grateful that I took the time to learn those technologies as they have kept me continuously excited about what I can achieve with a basic understanding of programming concepts. And one great example for this was me learning how to build universal apps that work for Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. This idea for Universal App was later rebranded to the Universal Windows Platform, and app support was broadened to include IoT devices, consoles, and mixed reality devices when Microsoft announced Windows 10. While I never really built anything really substantial for the platform, the core idea of cross-device app support with a single code base has kind of stuck with me, and that concept has since then been popularized with technologies such as Facebook's React Native, Google's Flutter, and even the new Apple Mac Catalyst technology that allows developers to share code for iPad apps with their macOS counterpart. So yeah, that is how I started to learn programming. It wasn't the easiest thing to get into, but I managed to persevere through some of the hardships along the way, and I honestly can't imagine my life without programming. At this point, I feel like I've been reading and writing code for my entire life, but the reality is that I've only been doing that for 6 or so years. And another thing that I want to bring up in this video is the current state of computer science education in Malaysia, which is where I completed my K-12 education. Back when I did that, there wasn't any classes that taught about computer science or programming. The closest was an IT class that taught me how to use the Microsoft Office suite and how to build a website with a program called Web Page Maker. That program didn't require me to write any code at all. It was a drag and drop interface for building web pages. It was actually pretty cool, but I didn't write any code, and yeah, I did build an information website on that. And as part of this video, I did some research and digging up on the education system in Malaysia, and to my surprise, I found out that as early as 2016, computer science and programming was introduced to the Malaysian education system for high school students. Things like basic coding concepts, algorithms, and databases were included in the subjects Asas Computer Science and Computer Science, which translates to Basics of Computer Science and Computer Science respectively. I was actually very impressed when I found out about this, as I did not expect the Malaysian Ministry of Education to have a subject like that, but they did. So after that, I went online to find the textbook for Asas Computer Science subject for lower secondary students. I quickly skimmed through it and came to the conclusion that the topics covered in the textbook were surprisingly relevant, like most of the topics in the textbook was part of my computer science degree. However, I do have one suggestion for this computer science subject in Malaysia's high school, which is that they should really consider having an option for the subject to be taught in English, as is the subject is taught only in Malay. And while skimming through the Asas Computer Science textbook, I said to myself, if I did take this subject in high school, I might have ended up hating computer science and programming, because having to learn computer science terms in Malay is just really jarring. Like, reading through it in Malay was just very confusing to me. But bottom line, this is a step in the right direction, and according to this news article by the Malay Mail, it looks like the Malaysian Ministry of Education is looking to further roll out computer science education to more students, which is, in my opinion, a great move, especially given the fact that the world we live in right now is so focused on apps and digital experiences. So teaching the future generation how to read and write code is becoming more of a necessity. Let me know down in the comment section below, did you have the opportunity to learn computer science or programming in school when you did your K-12 education? And do you think that everyone should learn how to read and write code? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video where I talk about some of the resources that I use to learn programming. I'll leave some links that you can use to learn about computer science down in the video description, so feel free to check them out if you got inspired by my story in this video and you want to pick up programming. And just a reminder here that it's never too late to learn programming. Lastly, if you want to support the channel, give this video a thumbs up and smash the subscribe button and bell icon so you can be notified on future video releases like this. Until next time, everyone stay safe, stay at home, happy holidays, and I will catch you in the next video.